Hello, Econ students. Today we're going to be doing notes 3.3 on competition. Your essential question, what is competition and how do different market structures affect it? So first we're going to be looking at perfect competition, what it is, what conditions need to happen for competition. There are 4 conditions to be able to have perfect competition. Perfect competition is the market structure in which a large number of firms all produce the same product. So, with competition, we need many buyers and sellers, so there has to be many participants in this market. The products have to be pretty much identical. There's no major differences between the products sold by different suppliers. We have to have informed buyers and informed sellers, so the people creating the products are informed and the people consuming them also know about the products. And then we have to have a free market. So we have free entry and free exit into the market. No one is forcing anyone to enter or exit the market. And although we have a free market, there are also barriers to entry. So, factors that can make it difficult for new firms to enter a market are called barriers to entry. These include startup costs, which are the expenses that a new business has to pay before they can actually start creating their product. We also have to worry about technology. So, some markets require a high degree of technological skills, tech know how, and so not everyone is able to enter into those markets. We use our market equilibrium that we learned about last time when we're comparing supply and demand, putting them together in order to figure out the equilibrium price. And monopolies. So, a monopoly is a market dominated by a single seller. So, if you think of the game Monopoly, you all have probably played this game before. When you're trying to play the game Monopoly, you're trying to own everything on the board. Eventually, you own everything and everyone has to pay money to you. That is Monopoly. So, that is when you dominate the board, you dominate the game. One single person turns out to be the winner. So, monopolies form when barriers prevent firms from entering a market that has one single supplier, and they can take advantage of their monopoly power and they can charge high prices. So, like when you own various properties on the monopoly board, you can start buying houses, you can start buying hotels, and you can charge people more money because you have the monopoly. The different market conditions create different types of monopolies. We have the economies of scale. If a firm's startup costs are really high and the average costs fall for each additional unit it produces, then we have an economy of scale. So this can pretty much become a natural monopoly. Natural monopolies are the market that runs most efficiently when one large firm produces all of the output. And then, of course, we have technology and change. So sometimes the development of a new technology can destroy a natural monopoly. The government can also have interference, which can create monopolies. So, government monopolies are monopolies that are created by the government. So, the government can grant patents, as we learned about before, which are those licenses that give the inventor of a product the exclusive right to sell it for a certain period of time. So, they do that when we have new technologies come out. The government can also give monopolies to franchises or licenses. So, a franchise is a contract that gives a single firm the right to sell its goods within an exclusive market. So, if you think of franchises, you can think of like Major League Baseball or the NBA. Those are franchises, they have their licenses to run. We don't have more than one Major League Baseball league in the United States or more than one National Basketball Association. We kind of have those one leagues because they have their franchises and their licenses. And then we also have industrial organizations as well. So, price discrimination is the division of customers into different groups based on how much they will pay for a good. So, although we usually think of discrimination as a bad thing, treating people differently, we can do this in economics. They're also very common. You probably just don't realize things like discounts for specific people. All of you are about to graduate high school, so you'll be going into college soon, hopefully. And when you get your college ID, you'll be able to get a student discount in a lot of places. They also do a lot of senior discounts for elderly people. And we just had Veterans Day, so we have a lot of military discounts in places as well. So, market power is the ability to control these prices, to control prices and your total market output. They can use targeted discounts like these student or senior discounts, which are one form of price discrimination. So monopolists will try to maximize their profits. Monopolists produces fewer products at a higher price. They want to produce less and be able to make more money off of each one they sell. If they just keep producing more and more, they're going to have an overage of their quantity. They're going to have too much supply and they're not going to have enough demand. All right, so next we're getting into monopoly competition and oligopoly. So the four conditions of monopoly competition. So in order to have a competition between monopoly, many companies would compete to sell products that are similar, but they're not identical. So this is when we have many firms. There are few entries, few barriers to entry. There is a slight control over the price because people are willing to pay it, and they have differentiated products. So the products are just different enough that people would be willing to buy one over the other. Non-price competition is a way to attract customers through style, service, location, but not necessarily a different price. So this is when we're exchanging things that are similar, but we are charging the same price for them. So you can think of like Coke versus Pepsi or an Android versus an iPhone. So the characteristics are pretty similar of these items. You can buy them at similar locations. Some sellers can charge higher prices because they offer customers a higher level of service. So, if they think that maybe one product has a little bit more skill to it, something like that, like an iPhone maybe has a better camera than an Android. I don't actually know if that's true, so don't quote me on that, but if that would be the case. And then also they use advertising. So different companies will use advertising to try to get people to buy their product over a competitor's product. So if we're thinking about like Mac versus PC, those commercials that made Mac look cool and PC look like something old for business, that would be the difference. The prices will be higher than they would have been in a perfect competition because firms will have a small amount of power to raise their prices. And then in monopoly competitive firms, they can earn profits in the short run, but they're going to have to work hard to be able to keep those products relevant and to keep ahead of their rivals in order to keep making money. They also have to have a variety of different products and make sure they're monitoring their price so that people will still pay whatever it is they're trying to charge. An oligopoly is a market that's dominated by a very few large profitable firms. So we can think about this like the phone market. So of course we know we have Apple that's producing these phones, we have Google that's producing the phones, but we don't have that many companies. So we have a small number of very large, very profitable firms that make these things. Same with things like oil. We only have a few companies that sell oil and they can charge pretty much what they want for it because people have to buy it. They will keep buying it no matter what the price is. So, collusion is an agreement among members of an oligopoly to set prices and production levels. Price fixing is an agreement between these different people that they're going to sell their products at similar prices. And a cartel is associated by producers established to coordinate prices and production. So, another example here in the car industry, we have the big three in the United States. GM, Ford, and Chrysler are the big three car companies. So, they're the ones that produce cars in the United States. We have other companies as well, of course, but those are the big three. So, this is how we can kind of categorize the different market structures that we have. I believe our last section here will be regulation and deregulation. So market power is the ability of a company to control the prices and control the output. Markets dominated by a few larger firms tend to have higher prices and lower output than a market that has a ton of sellers. To control prices, sometimes they use predatory pricing. Predatory pricing sets the market price below the cost levels for the short term to drive out their competitors. So that would be like if a new gas station came to town and they were trying to compete with Chevron, trying to compete with Shell, they could charge like 50 cents a gallon cheaper. While they wouldn't be making a profit, they could be taking enough business from the other two gas stations that they would be losing out on money, but they could eventually drive out their competitors so that they would be able to be the only gas station in town. that would be predatory pricing. So the government has regulations as well regarding competition. The government can regulate business practices and they can break up monopolies. So right now, I believe it's Google that they're trying to break up. They believe that Google kind of has a monopoly. AT&T has been broken up before. Standard Oil and Trust, Verizon, I think, all of these big companies that have tried to form monopolies have been broken up by the government before. They can block mergers. So mergers are the combination of two or more large companies into a single firm. So, like in the video we were watching yesterday, there was, or 2 days ago, there was an AT&T merger with, I'm sorry, it was an AOL merger with Time Warner. So these two media groups were forming together and they were merging into one company. And the government can also preserve incentives. So they can preserve incentives that they're giving to specific companies that would benefit consumers. Deregulation is the removal of some of the government controls in the market. Deregulation is used to promote competition. So that's when the government is stepping out and not having control over different companies, different firms, in order to increase competition within those companies. And that is the end of your notes for today. So don't forget to write a summary, a couple sentences about what you learned.